Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for episode 6 of Fire Force or Enen no Shouboutai. So this one is it feels weird that we're like halfway through the first core, or if this is only going to be one core halfway through the whole thing, but I think this is going to be more than one core, not sure. Either way, it feels weird. It doesn't feel like we're 6 episodes in. And this is a very, very conflicted review for me. I'm very, very torn because I can't say, oh, this was just a meh episode, because it wasn't. I can't say that this was a bad episode, it wasn't. I can't say it was a great episode, it wasn't. It had certain aspects of it that were just amazing, and certain aspects of it that just weren't amazing. So it's one of those things where I can't generalize the whole episode, because there were things that were done so well, and things that were so not done well. But yeah, to start off, before I get into the story or anything, the production quality and the direction, I think I'm willing to say it's the best I have ever seen in any anime. There's so many anime that I love the direction, I love the animation, the production quality, but I just think this beats all of them. This is a freaking beautiful show when it comes to just the shots they choose. There's too many good. The shots they choose, how well animated it is, the transitions and editing, there's just so much that's amazing, the best I've seen with this show in terms of production, that I can't even name them all without forgetting anything, because everything about the production and directing is just so good. It has to be the best I've seen, I think. But then, on the other hand, there's the writing, and the writing, I'm not going to say it's bad. I am going to say it's very, very hit and miss. I think that on the miss side of things, there were a lot of very generic shonen tropes done poorly. There are a lot of things that this is very much it's very much on par with a fairy tale or a Black Clover. I don't know, Black Clover's writing can be good at times, so it's this is very much more of a fairy tale or a Black Clover than a Soul Eater, or say a good shonen like One Piece. So there are a lot of generic shonen tropes that it does poorly, but with the exception of one thing, Princess Hibana's story was really, really good. The psychology behind it, the way it was written, all of Princess Hibana's story was really, really, really incredibly good. And that's why I say I can't generalize this thing, because there are some aspects of it that are really poor and some aspects of it that are just amazing. And I think the one exception to Princess Hibana's story is something that I'm sure so many other people will complain about, so you don't need to hear me harp on it much, and that's sort of the BS, oh, I'm in love with you, join the harem romance aspect of it. It's like they took something that was amazing, the writing of her character was amazing, and then they just threw in that BS romantic stuff that made it so you were so close to doing something great and then you didn't. But yeah, that was the best part of the episode by far, was how well her character was written. Again, with the exception of the romance stuff. Now, Shinra, though, is more on the very, very miss side of the writing. And I would give two reasons that I can point to for why I think this, is that one would be insufficient build-up, in that when, again, trying my best not to spoil too much for Boku no Hero Academia, but to compare it to that, there's a moment where Izuku is in a ton of trouble and is getting super injured, but he pushes through, and it's sort of like life or death survival, and it's this crazy power of will trying to power through against these odds or whatever. And it's really, really emotional, to the point where most of the videos I watch with people reacting to it are crying just at this fight, because it's been so built up. We've gotten to know the character and feel for the character and see the struggles and the failures they've gone through so much that it feels like you're behind them all the way, you're rooting for them, where we have not had that build up for Shinra at all. So when we have this emotional music playing and he's like, oh, I'm not gonna let this burning take me down, I'm gonna keep standing up and stuff, it just feels really, really hokey and generic shonen, something that Natsu would do. It feels sort of like that, because we haven't had this build-up for his character to really care and really be behind him. And the second reason is, I don't know if this is the best way to word it, but he's too successful. It feels like the best protagonists for anything are ones where you get to see their vulnerabilities, their failures, their setbacks. But with Shinra, we've just generally seen him succeed pretty handily at whatever he's done so far. So it takes this. It's another reason again that when we get these moments, they don't feel like emotional or impactful, but rather feel like kind of cheesy because we haven't seen him have those struggles, those failures. So yeah, that's just another thing with his writing that not the best. But generally, those were my thoughts, and now I'll get into the notes I took while watching my second time through. Notes I took scene by scene. So I think some of the kind of censorship that we've seen, I think it's sort of sad, because on the one hand, I think the censorship does hurt the story they're trying to tell and the impact of it, but on the other hand, people's actual lives and feelings are so much more important than that, so I deeply understand why the censorship is there. It's just sort of a lose-lose situation, where I feel like it does sort of take you out of the series, because when you see it, you're like, oh, it reminds you, and you're like, that's why they have to do it. So it does sort of take you out of the series when you see it, but at the same time, it's sort of very understandable. So it's a horrible situation either way, whether they choose to show it or not, you know. But either way, another thought I had when watching the sort of Fifth Angels 3 come in is the fifth, other than Princess Hibana, who is a really well-written character, they just aren't really particularly likable, even as villains or in a comedy sense. They're not particularly likable in a comedy sense or as villains, and they're not very compelling either. The fifth really just, I don't know, yeah, it isn't very compelling is probably the best way to put it. So the shots, transitions, lighting is he goes in and confronts Hibana for the first time, and she's sort of giving her speech at the beginning of their encounter is all beyond brilliant. Again, it's so incredible. And this whole thing, it kind of makes me think too, where he's like coming in as the hero and all. I was like, wait, isn't this all kind of like not the fifth's fault really? Because when you think about it, Iris came to visit them, and of course Hibana burnt her clothes off being all angry and sort of vengeful, bitter, that sort of thing. But really the eighth are the ones that invaded them. So yeah, this doesn't really totally seem like the fifth's fault. It's not like they were necessarily keeping Iris hostage. But either way, I love how Hibana uses scientific knowledge in her use of fighting against Shinra in the past when she was coloring the flowers. I love the way she uses that, especially in the combat. I thought was really cool. And I love another really well-written, really emotional thing was how all of her moves are named after flowers, and then we learned that all the nuns were named after flowers, and all of her moves were probably named after the nuns. It's just all this big circular triangle of connecting naming that's really cool. And then she uses the Sakura move, which makes no sense at all, but looks incredible, and it allows for some amazing shots. So yeah, it makes no sense logically, but it is like really cool looking. And I like how we start now to delve into her past, Princess Hibana's her past and her psychology, where basically her thoughts are sort of the only salvation is saving yourself, and also all these nuns served God better than I did, and look what happened to them. But here I am, still standing. If this is the devil's power, like how can it be beautiful, all that stuff. It's a really good dive into her psychology, and it was all really well written. The flashback also really great. It had build up all series. It explains a lot about Iris. It explains a lot about Hibana, and it was just done so well. And I love that when everything did happen and when all the other nuns were burning and stuff, we saw Hibana have the same, like, devil's smile as Shinra. And I love, again, how that sort of same just horrified smile of, ah, crap, this is what flames are, and I'm one of the people that controls flames. I love how that same thread comes through. So again, I'm getting to the point where I'm praising all of this stuff because all of this stuff was so well done. It's one of those things where, again, you can't generalize the episode because there was some things that weren't great and some things that were. And I love the after credit scene too. The after credit scene with Obi was hilarious. It was so good. So yeah, in conclusion, some things that the episode left me with is, except for the romance BS, I really grew to love Hibana. I think she was a really cool character, a really well-written character. And then when it comes to Iris, I actually really like Iris. A lot of people are saying, she's kind of useless, or she doesn't do anything, and while that aspect of things is true, I still think she's a valuable member to the cast, because while everybody else is doing their comedy gimmicks, Iris is a really good straight man character to their comedy gimmicks. And she plays a really good role in the interactions that way, that I think is really cool. In addition, I think that this episode really made me care a lot more about her character and feel more for her as a person. So I really grew to love her as well as Hibana. But Shinra, this episode sort of continued a gradual downward slide on his character that I had even further, because I feel like I don't understand the appeal of the main character who doesn't have any struggles or failures and just succeeds at everything all the time. It just isn't very, I'm going to use the word again, compelling to me. I know there are some people that like main characters that just win every fight without struggling ever, all the time, but I don't know. I feel like Shinra is too Superman-esque, too untouchable. But yeah, I think that too many things here with the production quality were beyond brilliant. The editing, the production, the animation, the direction, too many things were beyond brilliant to name them all. They were so good. So yeah, that's the thing. I can't just give this sort of episode some general score or anything. There were things that were absolutely amazing in every way, and some things that I weren't that into. But overall, I'd give it as a score 7.5 irises out of 10. I really loved Princess Hibana's story. I really loved how beautiful the show was. So yeah, the writing, not top-notch, but the show itself, incredibly beautiful and fun to watch. So yeah, 7.5 irises out of 10. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. So if you did like the video, comment down there too. Tell me what you thought of this week's episode, what you thought of my thoughts on it and all that. Subscribe for more Fire Force, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us on Discord, then just ask and I'll give you a link to that. And if you would like to help keep the channel going and support it on Patreon, a link to the Patreon will be in the description. So yeah, that's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.